Hey, Against the Tide media viewers.
Welcome to Talking Back with Tera and Barb.
I'm Tera.
And I'm Barb.
We're here this week at the Christian Worldview Filmmakers Guild and Film Festival.
And we are thrilled to introduce to you today someone who has had a major part in casting for some of your favorite faith-based films and television shows. Some you will probably recognize, like I Still Believe, and I Can Only Imagine, and maybe a little television show you're familiar with, The Chosen.
Absolutely.
So let's welcome Beverly Holloway. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
Great.
Thank you. Well, to start things off, can you describe for us what it's like being a casting director and what that means?
Sure. So as a casting director, I work most closely with the director, of course, and the producers. So typically I'm working with the director on the creative side, the characters, the qualities of the characters that he wants, what he's looking for in his he or she, I should say, are looking for in their actors, what their goals are for the cast that they envision for their project. And then I work with the producers on the budget side and how we need to accomplish what the director's vision is, but in a way that serves the budget as well. So I work with both of them to really try to bring the pieces together so it satisfies both sides of the process.
That sounds like a very complex job and keeping lots of people happy.
Yes, it's part creative and part business, which is actually really ideal for me. I think that's why I end up loving it so much, because I am, my father was an engineer and my mother was an interior designer. So my brain is literally like split in half. So it satisfies both sides of that for me.
That's great. What a blessing to have both the left brain and right brain working, right?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Most days.
Well, how'd you get your start as a casting director?
You know, I was fortunate in that I had a friend who was a filmmaker that I went to church with, but it was a second career for me. I didn't start until I was 29 in filmmaking world. In fact, I turned 30 on the set of the very first project I ever worked on. So it's very memorable. I can always remember how many years I've been in the business because of that. But I had been involved in acting and theater and producing and directing theater in the community while I was doing a different job, which was tied to interior design at that point. But I had always really wanted to be involved in performing arts and in something more creative, and also the idea of being able to use what God had sort of gifted me with in a way that put good things out into the world. So I went to that filmmaker and just asked if I could intern with him. And so at 29, I left the job, the good job that made a lot of money, and went and interned with him, and it was the best thing. He needed a casting director. So I didn't go into it really specifically targeting casting. I went into it to learn all of the positions and to figure out where might be a good fit. And casting just ended up being the place for me. I did several things on that shoot, but casting is the one that stuck all these years later.
Wow.
So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
You started to address this. Can we hear more about why you like working in the faith-based area of movie making?
Well, because I'm a person of faith myself, the stories that I have been involved with telling are stories I personally am really passionate about in most cases. And I've done projects that aren't specifically faith-based or that are, in other genres, but really the projects that I connect with the most, that I get the most excited about, are usually those that have a faith journey, a faith story. And I just think it's so valuable to put those kinds of stories out into the world. I think that there's so much that goes out, so much content, so much media, that we need to be balancing some of what may be negative or hopeless with stories of hope and inspiration. And really, we want to point people towards God, towards Jesus, because there's no better hope, right? Mm-hmm. And so I didn't intend to start in that genre. It's just how my career has gone, and that's where God's had me. And I'm really, really happy about that, because I feel good about the stories that we do and the kind of projects we do. And it encourages me, I grow through those. So I just think it's really important. I think it's important that these stories are told. I think it's important that we're being a voice pointing towards Jesus, pointing towards God, and providing hope and providing some answers for people. I just think there's a lot of people searching for something.
Yeah. We've talked about a few of your projects. What are some other projects, and maybe even some of your favorite projects that you've worked on? We won't tell anybody.
I was just going to say, it's hard for me to say favorites, because I've been so fortunate to work with just wonderful filmmakers. And so honestly, I have favorites for many different reasons. And so they all end up having some aspect about it that makes it special for me. I have great memories associated to all of them, and sometimes it's because I connected with the cast. Sometimes it's the story just was especially powerful for me. It can be anything. Like, I can only imagine, I'm a huge music person. I sang on my worship team, for 20 years. And so doing a biopic about music or musician or song, same thing with I Still Believe. That's just heaven to me. That's just, I love it. I love it. But yeah, a lot of the projects, I did a project called Indivisible that highlighted military and, post-traumatic stories like that. I think that's really important and powerful. And, again, loved the themes of that. I've been really fortunate to kind of have a wide range of stories. And, I don't have one in particular, and I've done some others that are not faith-based. And it's interesting because sometimes I sort of wonder, why it is that I felt led or doors opened in a certain direction. But in looking back, in most cases, I think it's because I was supposed to work with those filmmakers. We were just supposed to have that season together. And my hope would be, that seeds are planted, or that there's something in the way that we work together that encourages them. So whatever door it is, I hope that I'm kind of doing what God would have me do in that place and time, even if it isn't something that's specifically faith-based. So there's kind of a wide range. I've done some cowboy and motocross, and it's fun. That's part of what makes this fun. It's just different stories all the time, different characters. It's great.
Right.
Yeah.
As you speak to us, you have a smile on your face. I can tell that you love your job.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I am sad that this interview is coming to a close, but let's wrap up with kind of doing a lightning round.
Sure.
And Barb, do you want to start us?
Sure. What did you binge watch while you were at home, or were you at home?
I actually was working quite a bit, but this is crazy. It was mostly reality cooking shows. And I watched a show called Indian Matchmaker. It was all on the Indian culture and this matchmaker, and it just was fascinating to me.
Wow.
So that's nothing incredibly, powerful as far as scripted, but yeah, I found myself just watching people.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
And what do you do for downtime, enjoyment, hobbies?
Yeah, I have a dog, which I love. So we do, walks and that kind of thing. She keeps me very happy. I love spending time with my family, and I'm growing to really love the outdoors more. I went kayaking recently, and I'm finding myself just wanting to kind of be out. I've gotten a little bit, I got a telescope, so I'm kind of exploring that. Just new things. I'm kind of in a season where I'm like, sure, I'll try that. I saw Jupiter and the rings of Saturn. Like it's crazy when you see that. And that's where I say, like, how can you think that's by accident?
Yes.
There's no way that was just accidental. It's just so drives home to me that God designed the universe. And it's just, I'm in awe of it when I see it. It's one thing to see it in pictures. It's another thing to look through, and it's real and it's there. It's just powerful. And so that's my latest little kind of hobby that I'm having fun with.
That's neat. Out in the Midwest, there's the Ark. There's a Creation Museum. And the Creation Museum is a planetarium. If you ever get there, take the time to go to the planetarium. You'll be moved, and I think you'll text me and say, that was amazing. Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
really
absolutely.
Good stuff. Cincinnati.
Okay, awesome. No, thanks for the tip. I appreciate that. Yeah, I love it.
Do you have a life verse that carries you?
I do. And it's probably several people's, but it's Philippians 4, 6, and 7. So be anxious. I tend to be a worrier. And so I'm constantly having to remind myself, be anxious about nothing, but in everything by prayer and petition. It's a little bit, rewording it, but by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. That's the other part I forget. When I'm praying and I'm pleading, it's like I have to stop and say, thank you, God, for this season, for what you have provided, for, what's going on, for just loving me and being with me. But you present your request to God. And what's interesting to me is that it doesn't say, then all of these things will be answered. It just says the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind. So it's not that we all of a sudden get all the answers and everything makes sense, but his promise is that he will give us peace in the midst of whatever it is. So that's very comforting. I've had several times in my life where it still to this day doesn't make sense, but I can tell you I have peace about it. And it's only because of God's peace. It's not logical. And so I love that. So that's my driving force.
Great.
Yeah.
Man, I hate to see this come to an end, but it must. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Gosh, my pleasure.
It's just been great to get to know you and your story a little bit better.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for checking out this Against the Tide media video.
And you're probably asking yourself, how can I watch more great interviews?
Well, you're in luck because Against the Tide Media's YouTube channel has tons of great interviews.
You'll find Chatting with the Chosen interviews, 53 Questions with Raina,
Zoom rooms, host interviews, and us talking back with Tera and Barb.
While you're there, like this video, hit subscribe, and click on notifications so you won't miss an interview.
And don't forget to like Against the Tide Media on Facebook and follow us on Instagram.
Thanks again for watching. And I'll clap.
Do you feel all set? Okay. Hey, Against the Tide video. Sorry, we'll start again. Can we hear more about why you like working in the faith-based area of movie making?
Well, because I'm a person of faith myself, and I probably just hit my microphone, and sorry if that sounded horrible.
Can you check the video just real quick?
Sure.
Make sure it's recording. I just had this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yes.
Okay.
Give me just a second before you carry on.
Slight panicked moment there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
We talked about a couple of your projects. What are some of the other projects?
As you started to say, I started to look at the time. So maybe you should re-say that question because I was looking forward to
okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Guess we should have.
So I'm going to hit the stop button.
Mm-hmm.
Did we clap at the beginning?
Yes.
Oh, good.
And I'll clap, and I'll clap, and I'll clap, and I'll clap.